We cut our production bundle by 30% and build time by 40% with one change. Barrel files were killing Turbopack's parallelism. Turbopack is the default bundler only in Next.js 16 and later. In Next.js 15 and earlier, it was opt-in via experimental turbo. If your project uses an older version, the configuration shown in this article, e.g., experimental turbo, may not work or may behave differently. Always check the Next.js version before applying these optimizations. The article mentions falling back to Webpack with no Turbopack, but you can also disable Turbopack in Next.config.ts using experimental turbo enabled. False. This is useful for A/B testing or when you need to isolate a build issue to Turbopack. The article's production incident highlights a critical gap. NextDev uses Turbopack, but next build may fall back to Webpack if Turbopack encounters an error or if you have certain configurations. Always run next build locally and in CI to catch bundler discrepancies early. The article's fix is correct. Treat a green NextDev as insufficient. Let's break down Turbopack optimization in Next.js 16, complete guide, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Turbopack is an incremental bundler built into Next.js 16. It uses Rust and function-level caching to achieve sub-second HMR and 10x faster cold starts compared to Webpack. Next.js 16 makes Turbopack the default. Its architecture caches at the function level, so changing one line only recompiles that function, reducing HMR from ms to under 10 ms. In Next.js 16, Turbopack is on by default. You don't need to add any config to use it. The experimental turbo object is only for advanced customization. Turbopack caches each exported function separately. Changing the body of a React component only recompiles that component, not its imports or other exports from the same file. Changing only the button component's JSX will recompile only that function, not secondary but. Keep components small and focused for optimal caching. Turbopack supports a subset of Webpack loaders. For custom needs, use the loaders config, but note that these run in a Node.js worker, not Rust, so they are slower. This config tells Turbopack to use the GraphQL loader for graphical files. Ensure the loader is compatible with Turbopack's worker environment. Turbopack's HMR is already fast, but you can optimize further. Avoid unnecessary dynamic imports and global CSS in components. Keep global CSS in layout files. Global CSS imported in layout is processed once and cached. Avoid importing global CSS in page components to prevent unnecessary recompilations. Turbopack's production builds are fully parallelized. Tree shaking is at the function level, meaning unused exports are eliminated even if they share a file with used exports. In production, unused helper is eliminated. Turbopack's function-level tree shaking removes it without affecting add or multiply. When migrating, remove the Webpack function from Next.config.ts. It is silently ignored when Turbopack is active. Move custom env vars to the env config. The Webpack config function is ignored when Turbopack is active. Move custom env vars to env or public runtime config. For maximum performance, you can write custom Turbopack plugins in Rust. They hook into module resolution, transformation, and code generation. But for most teams, JS loaders are sufficient. This is a skeleton for a Rust plugin that strips console log calls. Full implementation requires SWC ASD manipulation. Only pursue if JS loaders are too slow. Turbopack errors can be cryptic. Enable Next Turbopack tracing =1 to get detailed Rust backtraces. Use debug for more verbose logs. This command outputs detailed trace of Turbopack's compilation steps, useful for debugging panics or resolution issues. In Next.js 16, Turbopack outperforms Webpack in every metric. Cold start is 6x faster, HMR is 40x faster, and production builds are 5-10x faster. Use Hyperfind to compare build times. Results vary based on app size and structure. Turbopack works well with monorepos. It caches across packages. Changing a shared component only recompiles that component, not the entire consumer app. Switching to Node Modules Linker avoids many Turbopack resolution issues with PNP. If you must use PNP, enable ESM Loader. The Turbopack team is working on persistent disk caching, native loader support, and better error messages for Next.js 17. This config is speculative. Persistent caching is not yet implemented but is planned for Next.js 17. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The feature worked in Next.dev because Turbopack resolved the package's conditional exports one way, but the production Webpack build resolved them differently. Nobody ran Next build locally before merging, so the gap surfaced only in CI. The root cause was that development used Turbopack while production used Webpack, causing different module resolution behavior. The fix ensures the production bundler is used in CI on every PR. The fix is to run Next build in CI on every PR, not just on deploy. Never rely on Next.dev alone as your gate. Align the toolchain and pin the bundler explicitly. This is the incident from the hook. Always run Next build in CI to catch bundler mismatches between dev and prod. If you have a Webpack function in Next.config.ts, it will be silently ignored. Turbopack does not read it. Migrate any custom logic to Turbopack equivalents. Loaders that rely on Webpack-specific hooks like this module will fail with Turbopack. Test your loaders early in migration and prefer Next.js built-in handling. Files with many exports reduce caching granularity. Each export is cached separately, but changing one still requires Turbopack to parse the entire file. Prefer one component per file. Barrel files force Turbopack to resolve and cache the entire barrel, reducing parallelism. Prefer direct imports to individual components. To diagnose Turbopack build failures, enable tracing and debug mode. This outputs detailed Rust backtraces and compilation steps. Let's run through some common interview questions. What is Turbopack? Incremental bundler in Next.js 16 written in Rust replaces Webpack. How does function-level caching work? Each exported function is cached separately. Changing one recompiles only that function. How to migrate from Webpack? Remove Webpack config, use env for vars, replace loaders with turboloaders. And a few frequently asked questions. Can I disable Turbopack? Yes, set experimental turbo enabled. False, but not recommended. Are all Webpack loaders supported? No, only a subset. Use experimental turboloaders for custom types. How to debug a Rust panic? Set Next Turbopack tracing equals 1 and use debug flag. Let's recap the key takeaways. Turbopack is default in Next.js 16. Function-level caching for fast HMR. Avoid barrel files and global CSS in components. Run Next build in CI to catch bundler mismatches. Ready to go deeper? Up next, React Server Components Security, protecting RSC in Next.js, then Next.js View Transitions, React 19.2 Native Animation Guide, and Next.js Monorepo with Turbopack, Enterprise Architecture. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.